everyone knows.
Okay. Yeah. Hello.
Hey, Bob, how you feeling?
Doing good. No
Oh, good.
complaints. We're doing good, thanks.
Excellent.
I'm assuming everybody else is doing good here so far.
Yeah, so far.
Good.
Hello, all.
Hey,
Greetings.
Hey, Bob, is your daughter Terry Boland?
Yeah, she is.
Okay.
Yep.
She's a doc.
Yeah. She was about 6 years old when she said that's what she's going to do. Of course, we blew it off, but she surprised us.
Good for her.
The weather was really nice today. There's people already out on the street.
yeah, good.
Oh, how is that looking down there?
I think it looks better than I anticipated. The spaces are bigger than I thought they'd be.
Good. Good. Hi, Andy.
Hello, Bob.
Hello.
Hello,
Hey,
everybody.
where are you?
Andy.
I am home.
Ah,
Somebody's alarm going off?
Time to wake up.
now, Mike, how come we see you in this nice sepia tone now?
I'm sorry?
How come we see you in this nice sepia tone?
And this nice what?
Sepia, S-E-P-I-A.
What's that?
It's the sort of it's a color you can choose for your camera. And
Well,
it,
that's funny.
and
Because,
it appears you might have chosen that.
no, it's the background that I'm in. It makes it look like that. I've had other people mention that. And then my wife, of course, was across the room patting herself on the back that it's all because of what she did.
Way to go, Michelle.
She gets all the credit. I'm good.
Like Lisa's background.
Right?
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
that is a nice one.
Wow.
Sorry, that beats your sepia tone.
I try to keep it fresh and change it every day. So today it's presents.
All right, let's see. We're missing a couple of council members. Who's missing? Art, Art, Jim, and
Jim.
we'll give just another couple of minutes.
Chris, where are you at tonight? In state or
I
out of state?
am in our study in Wisconsin.
And what? Okay.
Yep, I'm here for my regular days off, and then I actually took vacation.
Yeah. Well, I know you got a bunch coming, so good for you. That's great.
Thank you.
How's the weather back there?
It's damp. It's you can tell the difference. It's like 30 degrees here feels like much colder because it seeps into your joints. So
Yeah, we were good here today. Nice.
yeah, I heard it got up to like near 60 down in Denver.
Oh, yeah.
That was beautiful.
Yeah, it's the humidity. It's the winter, the winters I left in New Jersey and actually when I lived here as well. So a big difference. Humidity makes a big difference.
Your sky is bluer though than New Jersey, I believe.
Bob, we sit on the hill in the back here and we're not in anybody's flight path about 2:30 every day. The little single engine prop Caribou for FedEx flies over.
Oh,
Every now and then you'll see a private plane or the National Guard on the weekends will fly a Black Hawk over. But other than that, like there's no interstate. There's a highway about a mile away. We can see it from here, but the trucks are generally related to agriculture.
is that what you do for excitement?
Not yet.
Okay.
Right now, I just, we're working on restoring a barn. We've contracted with the Amish to come re-roof it.
Oh my goodness.
But there's a lot of restoration work to do down there. It's the original barn
Oh,
from
boy.
1917.
I heard he rides around on his tractor.
My tractor. That's really embarrassing though, because I was seeding our little 2 acres and a little Cub Cadet, a little pull behind broadcaster, and the neighbor's on one of those like 15-foot tall tandem wheel tractors. I waited for him to go over the hill before I would do a pass.
So Chris, don't feel so bad. I have a Cub Cadet, so we're good.
Well, the thing is though, it's a little overwhelming when you're cutting like 4 acres of grass on the Cub Cadet. So I have to do it in like segments. So I just don't go, get all bored.
Sounds
Hey,
great.
all, can you hear me?
There's Jim. Jim?
Hey, Jim.
Hey, how you doing, sir?
Okay.
Jim, Travis. Wow.
There's Art. Let's go ahead and get started. Travis, Brian, good to see you. Diane's on with us. Let's get this work session going. This is our, just to inform, this is our next to last meeting of the year. So next week will be our last meeting for we're gonna have to nickname this year. 2020 is not good enough. We're gonna have to come up with some name for this year. So with that,
The episode of Angie.
we've got the mighty Argo team, a couple of members with us tonight, and they want to show us something that they are do up on their project during the evening hours. I think we're also going to update about the caregiver unit. Is that correct, Brian?
A caretaker unit, security.
Okay.
Hopefully we don't need caregivers up there yet.
Okay, caretaker. Okay, floor is yours.
All right, well, Mayor and Council, thank you for hearing us tonight. And Mary Jane is not going to join us tonight. Today is Asta's 40th birthday. So they are out in Glenwood Springs. And so she's left it to Travis and I to walk you through what we're talking about tonight, which we're really excited to be discussing. So last summer in June, we started working with a company called Moment Factory. They're based in Montreal. They are an incredible multimedia company that has several different subsidiary businesses, but their concept that we're working with at Argo is called Lumina. And Lumina is an enchanted night walk through the forest. And they've got several in Canada. They've got 3 in Japan, 1 in Singapore, and 1 just open in the French Alps. But what's unique about this is that they tell the story of the region in which they're located. And so they're very referential to the history and the heritage of the specific area. So we introduced them to the Argo project in June and started feeding them the information of this amazing community and the rich mining heritage and history of Idaho Springs and Clear Creek County. And they're very passionate storytellers. And so they got it just like that. And they spent about a month and a half working on what they call their initiation study. and where they presented that to us a few months ago, and we were knocked off our chairs. I mean, it was goosebumps and just incredible. The story that they're going to tell is seen through the eyes of a young prospector back in the in the late 1800s, as he was heading up Virginia Canyon, looking for gold, and they're going to feature the natural surroundings, and then start to tell the story of the mining history. And Travis will take you through their deck here in a minute, but they've approved Argo for the first Lumina concept in the United States. It starts at sunset, it ends later in the evening, so it works really well with the Argo cable car. What we've seen and talking with our consultants and different operators around the country is that they're really challenged to get folks up the mountain after 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. And so with this starting at sunset, it continues the business into the evening. And there's other benefits that I'll get into later, but I think we're just excited to be presenting this tonight to you. And as I said, Travis has got their deck. They prepared a presentation for the city. Moment Factory did. And Travis, I think with that, if you want to share your screen and take it away, that'd be great.
Sure thing. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep. All right. Thanks, Brian. Yeah. Well, Brian did a great job of explaining kind of who they are, what they do. But, I think it's safe to say this is a top-notch, world-class outfit. And we always knew at the Argo, we left ourselves, some room in the zoning and how we describe things, because we knew some type of immersive art installation that celebrated the history of the site would be a great fit, not only for the Argo, but a way to really, celebrate the town and the county and the region and the history that we're all living in and part of. So really, really excited to share this with you. I don't know if Brian or Barb mentioned this, but, this use is allowed within our plan development, our PD. So we're excited to move forward, and just excited to get some feedback from council here tonight. So as Brian mentioned, it's an outfit that does work all over the world. They're based in Montreal, and really what they do is they don't do sort of a cut and paste all over the world. They dive into the local history, the mythology, and the culture, and they really start there, and then create an experience that kind of celebrates that place. So we wouldn't even consider, working with somebody like this unless it was really a celebration of who we are. In my opinion, it's a way for people from the community, from the town, and visitors alike to go and have fun and see an amazing thing, but also learn something and absorb a little bit more about what makes us, Clear Creek County folk. So how they sort of organize their projects is it's a path that, as Brian mentioned, is an enchanted night walk. So there are a lot of different types of lighting, projection, different types of effects that they'll build out and design. So when you're traveling through the path or along the path, you'll reach these different nodes that kind of carry the story into another chapter. And they use various types of technologies to achieve those different types of spaces and experiences and effects. So the way that we're currently looking at it is potentially year-round. We may start on a semi-permanent seasonal basis, kind of see how it goes. But it will be, a real piece of infrastructure. And Brian, you may want to get into this after, but one of the things that's pretty awesome about this is going to allow the Argo and the city to create trails that wouldn't have been part of Virginia Canyon Mountain Park if it hadn't been for Lumina. So we're currently looking at 3/4 of a mile of new trails that'll be part of the Lumina experience at night, but open to the public during the day. So that great interpretive loop that we all want to see up there will be able to be built because Lumina is going to kind of jumpstart that construction. Again, this,
Let me
go
just
ahead,
add
Brian.
that. Yeah, let me just add to that, Travis, and thank you. And so there's the trail pathway, and Travis will get there, I think, at the end of the presentation, but it basically starts at near the terminal building at the upper landing, and it winds and traverses down the north face facing Gilson Gulch. And it's steep terrain. To Travis's point, this is a part of Virginia Canyon Mountain Park that would otherwise be completely inaccessible to the public. And there are several historic mine workings on that slope. There are adits, there are shafts, there is a tunnel. And so the trail wants to embrace some of those historic mine workings. And as Travis said again, I mean, this is free to the public during the day. It's basically, think about this as an adventure trail. It's going to have some built structures to help deal with the terrain. We're going to make it as accessible as possible. And it'll wind past a couple of these adits that we'll be able to activate and tell a story. There's different nodes and zones along the trail. But I think it's really important to understand that we're opening up a part of the park that otherwise no one would ever see. And Travis and I have seen it because we've stumbled across this stuff over the last 6 months while we've been trying to find the pathway up here. And we're pretty excited about the path that we've got on paper so far. Go ahead, Travis.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. So just to orient everyone, by now I'm sure we're pretty familiar with Upper Landing, which is now going to be called Miners Point. For those of you who don't know, we're working on our kind of naming of everything, and we really think it's a winner there. But if you can see in this map, it's a little dark, but right where my cursor is, that's the cable car upper terminal. And then over here, where my cursor is now, that's the Argo outpost. So that's where the bar is going to be, and the food containers and things like that. And then, so this is really the project scope that we're currently, building right now. Ground is broken. And so you'd enter kind of near the terminal, again, wind on that really very steep north-facing slope, past some of those historic mine workings, as Brian mentioned. And then getting down to a low point here, we're actually planning on boring a tunnel through the saddle of this little ridge here. And we're working with, Brian can maybe speak to it as well, but we've been talking to some of the great old miners of the county, and we're working with a guy and his team who thinks it's very doable. They're excited to get going on it. Actually, so we'd have a subterranean experience. Then you emerge on the east side in the east portal, and then make your way back to the Argo Miners Point there. So this is still really preliminary. It's pretty rough, but we are working with our team to kind of refine this layout moving forward, which we're going to be doing fairly quickly here.
So I think that's, let me see, what else, Travis? We covered, I think, all the ground here. There's obvious additional benefits to the city in terms of additional gondola ticket sales in the evenings when otherwise we would be shut down. Our assumption for operating hours has always been we'll be closing shortly after sunset every night. So in the summer times, it helps extend parking revenue and gondola ticket sales revenue and F&B and merchandise. And I think, the sales tax and the revenue share from the gondola help, add additional revenue to the city as well. So I think that's a positive. So,
Yeah.
Again, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say on the same note, we've been talking to some of the local business owners, restaurant folks, and they're really excited about having another draw that's really going to help their dinner time rush. I know their lunch rush is great. Dinner is, less stellar than the lunch. And this is going to just have that, consistent market for people to come at, do the Lumina, go have dinner on Minor Street before they head back down the hill. So we think it's really going to help the businesses in town as well.
Have dinner on Minor Street, huh?
Or on the east side, Mr. Mayor. There's something for everyone.
Well, I think the point, though, is it's a good point, is that we'll, and we want to pursue and continue talking with the city about, we've been talking about shuttle program, and is that something that maybe, might come into play with this and to take people up and down Colorado Boulevard and Minor Street, the different businesses and dinners and those kinds of things. So we're open to suggestions, but certainly it'll help drive additional, business, we would think, in the evenings right now, which is what's in talking with some of the GMs in town. Dinner's kind of a weak point versus lunch, obviously. So just another opportunity as we see it. But, that's kind of our high level conversation, our presentation tonight. As Travis mentioned, it is an allowable use within the PD. And we're just super excited about it. So with that, we'll just turn it over to questions from council.
Anybody have any questions? No questions. All right. Well, thanks for the presentation. It looks very cool. And I'm sure we'll be hearing more about this in the future.
We'll keep council apprised, as we will with every aspect of the Argo project. And just a couple, well, I've got your attention here tonight before the holidays. Travis mentioned that we broke ground. We mobilized October 28th and started building the access road up on top, building the promenade out to the terminal building. That road is now constructed, and we started blasting last week to build utilities. So we've been the beneficiaries of some really good weather so far. It's 55 degrees today on December 7th, kind of a crazy, situation, but it's good for construction, and that'd be great for the ski areas. So construction's proceeding, and we're on schedule for completion next year with the cable car project. And Mike, you mentioned beforehand the Caretakers Dwelling. And so council might recall that our PD does allow residential up on top and down below. And we're not planning on doing much residential up on top beyond future adventure cabins. But we have had a couple of vandalism instances up there, as Chris knows. Nothing major, but we've had some equipment stolen. We've had some spray paint tagging, and we've had somebody open a fuel tank of a dozer and pour some water in there. So there's some mischief going on up there. We now have cameras up there, and so we're able to, see who's doing that. We haven't caught anybody yet, but it just made it clear. And we've been thinking about this prior to all these events happening anyway, that we need to have overnight up there during operations and probably during construction, security presence. And so the concept is that down at the wastewater treatment plant area, we would build a modified storage container, basically a tiny home, and we would have overnight presence for security guard, just to keep an eye on things. I mean, we're going to have, CCTV systems and motion activated lights and all that stuff, but it doesn't matter because if we're just sending an alert down to Idaho Springs, if someone wants to do some damage up there, the damage is going to be done by the time the responders make it up to the site. So having somebody present who's coordinated with the police department and with the sheriff's department on site is I think, a really strong deterrent. And so that's the whole purpose of this residential unit that you'll be seeing. Again, it's not, it is allowed within the PD and the FDP, or the PD anyway. And so we'll be processing this administratively, right, Barb?
Yes. So just an overview of the process. Some of you may not know, but the Idaho Springs Municipal Code allows an administrative approval of a final development plan that is less than 50% of what exists. So staff has determined that both Lumina, which is an allowed use, we will deal with administratively. In terms of the caretaker unit, and in talking with Carmen also about this, their plan development allows 20 single-family residential units. This one caretaker unit will come off the top of that, and we may want to provide some additional conditions related to the fact that a caretaker unit is a little bit different than a single family unit in that they might be responding to calls at 2 a.m. in the morning. They might need a certain type of lighting or whatever if there's vandalism. But again, both will be dealt with administratively, which is why Andy thought it was really important to bring this in front of council in a work session.
Barb. All right. Without any questions, thank you very much, Barb and the Argo team. And we will be looking for some more things to come across our table.
Thanks, everybody. Merry Christmas if we don't see you. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
All right, we're gonna move right along. Next item on our agenda is the Carlson Elementary School playground request. Myself and Andy and John Bordoni have been working with Carla Cole there and the school district. Karen's been on calls with this and discussed this, been out on site and taking a look at it. This has to do with the new playground being built and some things that Carla's requesting to the city to really clean up the area. There are a few different options that can be had. And I'm going to let Carla take over and explain those options and ideas to council tonight. Carla, you ready? You got your mute on.
Hi, sorry. It's good to see so many faces that I haven't seen in a long time. So I am happy for that. And some of you I saw just earlier today. So first of all, I'd like to say it's not me requesting. It is the school district requesting. I am the go-between here. I am the designer, but I'm also speaking for Karen tonight because she is on a back-to-back BOCES call, trying to figure out some things for our gifted and special ed kids. So I do have a letter to read from her. So I think I'll start with that, and then I will go into the presentation material that's actually in your report, and we can send this letter along to Andy so you have it as part of your packet. We didn't have it in hand last week, but she got to it this weekend, so I'm going to read that. Clear Creek, to the council members of Idaho Springs, Clear Creek School District is in the process of finalizing the construction contract for the Carlson playground. Throughout the design of the playground, we have been intentional about creating spaces that will be open to the public during non-school hours. Given the location of the alleyway in between the playground and the library, it would be wonderful to have it improved. Improvement would prevent additional water and ice buildup and create a much more appealing entryway for families, communities, and visitors to our city. We believe this location to be the perfect entrance to our new space because of its visual connection to Minor Street and direct connection to the library, where many of our Carlson children spend their after-school hours while waiting for their parents to arrive home from work. Additionally, we have investigated multiple locations for our dumpsters with city staff and the library and believe the alley to be the best location for these dumpsters, as is common for businesses along Minor Street. Upgrading the alley would allow us to push the dumpsters further from the new entrance and present the visitors and residents of our community with a clean, open view of our community playground as viewed from the historic Minor Street. Working with the library, we are currently showing 2 to 3 parking and loading spaces in the area still to remain. Currently, estimates for the alley redevelopment include demolition and new concrete paving for approximately $10,000. Now, earlier we were talking about more of that, so I'll get into that, but we're looking at it currently at $10,000. While it does not directly impact the play space of the playground, we believe it is the right time to work together and make the entire block something to be proud of for our children and patrons of the library. We ask you to consider budgeting money towards the alley redevelopment. In gratitude, Karen Quanbeck, Superintendent and Lead Learner. So that is her letter. And can I share? I can share my screen. So I'm going to share with you kind of what we're talking about here for you guys to consider.
Yeah, let's cut through the chase. I want to know how we got the price down so much.
Yeah, well, we didn't have a number from a contractor before. That's how.
We were talking $27,000, right?
Well, yeah, and part of that was because we had included fencing in that, and obviously the fencing is hours around our dumpsters. So is everybody seeing my screen now? Okay, so right now, this is the current conditions. You can go over there. There's maybe a little snow. It's probably melted off now. But this is the newer library ADA accessible ramp in here, which would remain. We would keep the curb here to remain. We may even talk about making that a little bit higher, but that's part of the discussion. And then this is the alley we're talking about. So this alley, if you'll recall, is city property. So the alley actually goes all the way through, and we are in discussions about vacating a portion of the alley, which is back here. We are not talking about vacating this portion of the alley because the library is really using a good portion of it here. And so if somebody's going to vacate it, it should probably be the library. But in any case, this is the portion we're talking about for the revamping it and making it look a little bit better. So what you'll see in the sketches coming up is that our property line sits right where the fence used to be here and where the fence would be replaced here. And so from this path forward, we're looking at black vinyl coated fencing, which tends to disappear when you look through it. So that's the reason you see it on a lot of playgrounds, is because the black vinyl coated, somehow it's a trick. You sort of miss the fencing and you see right through it. You'll have to take my word for that unless you go down to Denver and take a look at some of those. But that is the idea, is that the fencing will be replaced with a black vinyl coated. And you can see this will be a nice area. And then we've got the alley that sits there now, which is used for parking by the library. The library, I don't know if it's an actual document that designates it to them, or if it's just a handshake and an agreement between the city and the library that they pretty much have ownership of that area to park their staff and load and unload their books there. So you'll remember the dumpsters would sit right here and they'd wheel the dumpsters out to the street, blocking the street, but early in the morning, and dump them there. So if we go down, this is sort of the back views of the alley. So what we're proposing is that we would move the library shed back to this area here, which they are okay with. So you can see that would move back there, and that we would move our dumpsters in kind of adjacent to that pole. So if you look at plan wise, this is what is currently in our documents. So our fence line would come here. This would be our property line. And we would like to have an entrance right here. And so if it has to be adjacent to the dumpsters, we'll make it adjacent to the dumpsters. There would be a gate. Actually, we'd probably take away this panel and create a gate right here so that the kids can, or residents, whoever, can enter right through there. But this would remain the alley as it is today. And then we would have our dumpsters. We would just shift the dumpsters to the west a little bit. So just in plan, for those of you who think better in plan. So that's where we're saying our door would be currently. We would create some sort of color in the pavement or something just to indicate that that's a walkway. And then our dumpsters would sit right there, blocking the view into the new playground. What we are proposing is that we would upgrade the alley to be all concrete. So we've got concrete where our drainage pan is over here under the fence, and we would continue that concrete up to the existing concrete curb, and we would shift the dumpsters that were sitting right in this triangle back into this area, and our electrical pole actually sits sort of over here. So we would have our electrical pole. What this does in plan is it also provides, during the morning time when we would need to get to our dumpsters, there wouldn't be anybody parked here, and we'd be able to roll those dumpsters out flat to our area, giving us a nice clear view into our playground. And the library could use this space after after 10 o'clock or so, when the dumpsters are dumped. Dumpsters are typically dumped at 6 a.m., sometimes a little bit later, depending on snow and whatnot. But by cleaning up this alley, it would allow it to be easier to plow, easier to shovel, and it would also help alleviate some of the drainage that's happening there now. So, you know, the drainage should be better with the pervious surfaces that we're putting in up through the playground behind it. We are adding a drainage pan, so 4-foot just concrete drainage pan, which helps direct water out here. But some of that will jump the curb, and this is the low spot. So we'll always have water right in this area, which has always been and always will be an issue for the library unless 14th Street is completely revamped. So what we're really asking here tonight is that you guys consider moving forward with some budget item that would allow for the future redevelopment of the space. If it can happen while we're constructing the library, while we're constructing the playground at Carlson, fantastic, because we have contractors on site and they'll be pouring concrete anyway. But even if you're not, then at least consider moving forward with the thought that money needs to be put towards this alley and possibly towards 14th Street, honestly, just from a designer's perspective down the line. But so that's what I'm presenting tonight. And right now I got word at about 3 o'clock today that they're estimating this portion of the concrete of the alley, and so we'd have to demo it, plus the concrete work would be around $10,000.
So Carla, of course, we can't make any decisions tonight. We
Sure.
can't act on any requests tonight on a work session.
Of course.
So is this 10,000, are you asking us to split that with the library district and the school district?
Well, we'd like to, because we'll be making sure that this part is integrated over here, which is a little over half of it. We'd like to say that that's the school district's part, and that we would like to go to the library district and see if they agree, because we feel that because our kids are using this area, and I'm speaking as a parent, I guess, at this point, less than a designer, but because the kids are using using the library, they'll be able to utilize this outdoor space even more if we're opening it up to the public. And so we'd really like to make this a nicer transition area and entrance into our space. So we would like to approach the library district and let them decide. Libby thinks that it's going to be a difficult sell to them. I'm hoping that between what is planned for it currently, because this is the options we have, versus what we're proposing, you can see the difference. I'm hoping that you guys tonight can see the difference, and I'm also hoping that the library board sees the difference and sees the value and making the alley a true alley for the dumpster to sit in. So,
well, Carla, if I'm following you, don't we gain a couple of parking spaces or park a couple of vehicles, except for, say, Monday, Tuesday, early in the morning when they're emptying the dumpsters?
That's right. We do actually get a few more spaces back there for the library and for their loading and unloading time. If they're doing an event at the library, they could park, honestly, they could probably park 6 cars back there.
Yeah.
Carla, do you also want to just remind council, since they heard this a couple of work sessions ago, where you are with your vacation request? Because I believe you're just waiting for the survey.
Yeah, so there was some confusion with the survey. So I'm actually still waiting on an actual number for the survey, because Weston does not work for the company that that I thought he did, I guess, anymore. And those guys are not terribly on top of things. So I need to go out to Weston specifically. I found that out on Friday, actually, Barb. So we are waiting to get a full budget on what that's going to look like. But right now, the school district, we expect that the whole process with, just management of it and everything is going to be around $5,000. So we are put that on hold at the moment until the district can figure out exactly what part of their budget that's coming from, because that is outside of the playground development.
Just to clarify, the vacation that the school district will be requesting is actually the portion of the alley that there are currently buildings on, correct?
It is. Yep.
I just wanted council to be clear, because I know that had come before council. So to the, so this portion that Carla is showing is not being vacated, but the portion as you go to the left will be vacated, and that, again, as council remembers, vacation of right-of-way requires no notice, no hearing, but it is brought before city council. So that is something that you will see sooner rather than later, but does not impact this project.
That is accurate. And so this is not the document that I was looking for, but this will show it. So what Barb is talking about, what we were talking about previously, is this portion of the alley we'd be requesting vacation of. And then what we're really talking about today is right in this area. This fence enclosure actually doesn't exist today. And there is that shed that sits there, and what we're proposing is that that the shed would move something like that back there, and that this would be that sort of, oops.
Okay, is there any other questions from council? So what we need to do, Carla, is really see how the discussion with the library district goes, coming up with a small, a true and correct number.
Okay.
Asking the city for participation. And I don't know if you're going to have it. Are you, normally when things like this happen, well, this is a little bit different because it's an infrastructure project. And we would have money already budgeted for something like this. So that's what we would need to do, is come up with a true cost, bring it back to council for a request, an action item, on a regular meeting, and let's see how this will shake out.
Yep. And I think now that I have the number directly from the contractor, I can say that we're talking between $5,000 if the library will split it, and $10,000 if not, is really what we're talking about now. So just something to keep in your thought process going forward.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. I appreciate the time tonight.
We're going to give you council one last opportunity to ask any questions to Carla or to Barb. All right. Thank you, Carla.
Thank you, Carla.
We'll be waiting to hear back from you.
Mayor.
All right. Our next item tonight, do we have Catherine O'Leary or Lisa? Are you representing Habitat?
I am.
Okay. Lisa, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet all of you.
Council, as you saw in your packet tonight, there's a request, a fee waiver request. And I'm just going to let Lisa just a couple of minutes to talk about the project. We know about the project. There was, they came to us in your packet. I'd have to look at the date, but they had come to us and asked for a fee waiver some time ago, a year and a half, for a variance also. And we allowed that. Again, we can't make a ruling tonight. It would have to go to our regular meeting next week, but the discussion would be, do we want to put it on or an action item So Lisa, take it away.
All right. Well, first and foremost, thank you all for allowing us to come on and have a second to talk. Mayor and council members, we really appreciate all you do, and we're really, really excited about this project. I will share, we are much further along than we were a year and a half ago, so I do have something that I can share with you. So here is the some of the pictures from above. The two trailers that were on the lot have been removed, and we actually have a perimeter fence put up to ensure that we don't have any issues with being able to move forward, and it's keeping the area much cleaner, and we're not getting stray vehicles parking, and it's working really, really well. So here's the proposed look. We are, part of the variance is taking the parking code and requesting a compact car allocation because we'd like to do this tuck under to give ample parking for the structures. As we know, Idaho Springs does sometimes struggle with parking, and we want to be the solution to that parking, at least in this subdivision. So that's what our architects and engineering, our architect actually grew up in Empire in Idaho Springs. It's Molly Wheelock, and so we're super excited to have her on board. This is kind of what it looks like, and you can see kind of through where the parking is, and then we have additional parking and green space. And so basically what we're asking, and I wanted to keep it brief, is that waive the application fee, which you did do a year and a half ago, but we've been delayed on the project. Now we are actively moving forward and are about ready to begin as soon as we get through one more variance board meeting. And then also we are requesting the $5,000 deposit that the city requires to be waived also. So those are the two things that we're asking for.
Oh, so you're asking for both fees to be waived?
We are. So you had previously agreed to the application fee being waived. And at that time, there was not a $5,000 deposit because it was back in, I believe, 2018, beginning of 2019. So this is a new cost for us. We're just requesting to not have that deposit at the time of the beginning of the application process.
Something when I was reading my packet. So it says the housing on the property. Habitat for Humanity is seeking a variance for the project currently with the city. Has 2 fees associated with an application. Oh, okay. I see it. Okay, I just read it. I just missed that. So Andy, is this $5,000 deposit? It goes towards the project?
Typically on larger projects, Mayor, there's a $5,000 deposit required when the development plan is submitted. And then charges are made to that deposit. If there's leftover from that deposit, it's returned to the developer. If there's more charges, then there would either be there might be an additional deposit that would be required. And this would cover planning fees and attorney fees and engineering fees.
So in reality, we're only waiving a $100 fee. The $5,000 is something that we'll get through those planning fees and things like that. We just asked for $5,000 up front to make sure that we have the money from the developer to cover the costs. Is that correct?
Yes, this is Mike Davenport, the other community development planner with Barb. The $5,000 is to cover any type of cost the city may have in reviewing the application, such as paying the attorney. Typically on a variance, the amount is usually a relatively small amount of cost that the city is going to have out of pocket. It's when they go to the next step of the actually submitting the building plan for approval as a final development plan, where there's much more time involved and cost to the city. Also, I need to note, in addition to what Elisa mentioned, that from the records, it looked like there, as she said, there was no fee when they got their previous variance application. No, there was no deposit requirement. There is some inconsistency between the fee schedule and the code in terms of whether or not the fee is required, but we've been following the policy that since the code says it's a requirement, we do ask for it, and that is part of the reason that led to Habitat asking for a waiver of that fee.
Okay. Council, any comments, or let's be careful on this, because again, this will have to go to an action item on a regular meeting. Any thoughts or questions?
I was going to say, is this the appropriate time to talk about this, or?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a work session. We can't make a ruling on it. I mean, I guess what I'm asking, Jim, is there any questions of how this this $5,000 deposit is used? So if we get the if we get the $5,000 and they use 3,500 of it towards development plans and things like that, is that a credit of $1,500? Is that how it works? I'm a little confused here about Andy.
So Mike, just let me clarify, and maybe the applicant can also speak. This fee waiver is, am I correct? It's limited to the variance board application process?
Yes, this is just for the variance application. This is not for the much more expense. This is not for the final development plan, which will follow, which will require much more staff time to review. This application for a variance usually involves a very small amount of staff time to review. Staff or consultant time.
So this fee waiver, just to confirm, is limited to the variance board application that the Habitat has submitted, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And how much money are we talking for that?
Do you have an estimate, Mike? We know the application fee is $100, right? And then do you have any estimate based on some of the other variance applications we've had, what we might be looking at? Yeah.
I don't have an estimate, but I believe it's going to be several hours each from the planning consultant, the city attorney. I spoke with with JVA today, and they essentially have very little time in this. Possibly something from Safe Build, but I haven't heard from Safe Build, so it's very few hours, I believe.
So you're thinking like 1,500?
I don't have a number.
Mayor and Andy, did we waive these fees for the Riverbend project and or the Argo previously, currently, or maybe ahead, or
I'm not aware. Yeah, Councilman Clark, I'm not aware of any fees that we waive for the Argo project. And the Riverbend residency, I think there was something that we did waive with a affordable housing project. John Kane, you have something on that?
Well,
They had,
go ahead, Mike. Go ahead, John.
I was gonna say, I know there was a parking reduction of what they had to have on site, but I don't know if there was a fee waiver. Andy probably knows.
Yeah, go ahead, Andy.
No, there wasn't any, as I recall, there weren't any fee waivers. As John just said, there was a a reduction in parking that was required based on the type of project. But again, remember what we're talking about here is just the fees related to their application to the variance board. And Mike, there are two variances that are being requested. Am I right? One is for some of the parking stall sizes being a little smaller. Is there another one as well?
No, they revised, the Habitat revised their application to just be a request regarding the parking and not the setback.
Okay, so this is just regarding some of the stalls being smaller than normal.
Yes, a portion of the required parking there, asking to be able to make them compact spaces rather than standard size spaces.
Okay.
Okay, so what we need to do is get this on an action item on our next regular scheduled meeting so we can have an open discussion and potential negotiation on this. We can't do that in this setting.
I think we have to be very, very careful in this economic situation that's upon us to be waiving anything without due diligence on our part.
Or we shouldn't be saying that in this setting. And that's why I wanted to defer it to our next regular meeting.
I know, I'm just giving you a general comment.
Discussion, we can talk about things. So, I think that we know that we'll have this on our agenda item on next Monday night. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. All right.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
You too. All right. Well, now I got to find my agenda again.
All right.
Next on the, there it is. John, Corona Relief Fund update.
Mayor and Council, my staff report kind of illustrates the work we've done with CARES Act money, which is a federal program in the city to date. There has been 2 awards to the city. The first one was a $50,000 allocation that we used for expenses we incurred as the pandemic was going, and we mostly used that to keep downtown operating and clean this summer for the most part. We received a second amount of money that we used for several tasks that I illustrated in my staff report. One was to provide gap funding to businesses in Idaho Springs from the Clear Creek Cares About Business program. One was for an individual support program that we are kicking off tomorrow to provide residents that have been impacted by the pandemic with money for groceries or utility bills or things like that. We got money to provide each member of City Council with a city-owned laptop so that you'll have good and consistent access to your email and to Zoom meetings, just so everybody's technology is exactly the same. And then to improve the audio visual capabilities in City Hall when we do start meetings, just kind of thinking that we want to have better camera in there, better audio system for people who don't feel comfortable being in City Hall during meetings. And then finally, we received money to help the Visitor Center kind of retool so that they are able to open during these kinds of situations. So they've done that work. They're largely done with that. Well, not largely, they are done and ready for reimbursement. The other items are also kind of moving along. Next week at City Council, we will be submitting requests to reimburse several businesses through the Clear Creek Cares About Business program. Through our allocation, we had $250,000 to provide to businesses through that program. And we're providing, there's 54 total applications. So we're funding approximately 16 businesses and Clear Creek is funding the remainder of those businesses. We may not get to the point where we have $250,000 that is eligible for reimbursement through that program. And we have talked to the CCEDC about giving the remainder to the EDC to be applied to the disaster recovery loans that were given in the city of Idaho Springs last year. Many businesses had to take $30,000 of new debt on, which isn't a ton, but during these kind of unsure economic times, as we just talked about, that's a big debt load, $200 or $300 when we're trying to make enough money in the summer to survive. So if we do have a remainder, that's what would be done with it. I wanted to kind of give the heads up on this because it will be a large amount of money that will be approved or that will be submitted for approval next week. But this money is all reimbursed through the Federal CARES Act and it's paid for through the CARES Act. So it's not anything coming out of the city budget. I think that's pretty much it. We have a couple other grants that are happening right now. We have the Cdot Revitalize Main Street grant. That's a $50,000 program that we talked about earlier. We've ordered new signage for the streets. So the street signs that we talked about have been ordered, and we're just waiting for them to finalize the cost on those, but it's along the lines of what we talked about, just specific numbers. We've also ordered new bike racks that will hold 5 bikes each, and a couple of new benches that match the benches that we have at Waterwheel Park. And I think that's pretty much everything that's in my staff report. If you guys have any questions about anything.
Jonathan, I have one as far as any excess. It would seem like it would be an action item next week to authorize any excess, to be divvied out before the December 30th deadline, like just preemptively to make that kind of a motion if there's any excess, because I think if it isn't dispersed right by December 30th, it's lost. Isn't that correct?
Correct. I didn't probably say that right. I will be submitting a memo to give that money to the EDC for the purpose, if that's okay with council, to give the money to EDC for that purpose. They would provide us with a reporting. One thing that's a benefit for us, if we do that, it basically encumbers the money so that at that point it's spent. So the EDC can take it on, and then they can do their process to make sure everybody is getting money fair. And then they'll provide us with reporting that will provide to the state and ultimately the federal government about how that money was spent. We're trying to be very careful about this reporting requirement because it is federal money. And so we want to make sure that there's a good accounting trail for everything and that we're following. I mean, this thing has like maybe 1,000 or more pages of rules attached to it. So we're just trying to be as careful as possible here.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, John, they added another page today. It's 1,001. But with that, thank you, John. This coronavirus relief funds and grants that we've been getting, and John has been working with the county very close to try to make sure that we did an even and a fair way of distributing this money to the business owners. So John's worked very hard. Actually, I told him to take a couple of days off extra this week because he got it summed up. And the other part of that is it took so long to really get the applications vetted. And they're just now, here it is, after the first week of January, and the county's just now starting to write checks. And so we wanted to make sure that we could get the money. We came up with an idea how to disperse that money immediately and to benefit the community by doing it that way. And our hands are free that we spent the money by the end of the year. So, all right. Any questions for John?
I do want to say our individual support program is going to go live tomorrow. We got to get it on the website and start publishing it. If you know anybody who needs grocery assistance or anything like that, that is having a hard time because of the pandemic, we'd love to help them. We did this in the spring. We had $25,000 that time, and we're spending approximately $4,600 a month in this support program. We're going to continue it now. We have 84,000 at this point. So, I mean, it sounds like a lot and a little all at the same time, but we want to try to get that out to people who need it right now, especially with the holidays happening. So,
and I'd like for council to keep your awareness out in the community, because there is some conversation going around that the city is only caring about restaurants and that we don't do anything for the citizens and the residents in the community. And I believe John put something on Facebook today to say, hey, we did $25,000 and now we've got another $84,000. So we've got over $100,000 that is going straight to the citizens in need of this community. And like John said, help pay bills or food, or we've got somebody to help support it. So I think that we've done, all of us and the Recovery Task Force and the county has done a very good job of making sure that every facet of our community is being looked at and taken care of. So, all right. Thanks, John. Any other questions, council? All right, we'll move to the next item. So one day I received an email from somebody, and I believe that email was in our packets, talking about a little piece of property that's probably 40 by 40. Bordoni, correct me if it's wrong, I'm wrong. It's probably enough area for about 4 cars to park. And that's what they do. We've got bicyclists that come up and park there. And as you see, we've got reports of, doing their bio dumps right there, changing clothes, dumping their trash, throwing trash into the river and everything like that. So I went up there and took a look at it. I saw it. I can understand where these folks are probably a little upset when this happens on the weekends and other days, and sometimes even blocking their driveway where people were parking in a weird way. So as we were thinking about what we should do with this little piece of property, one day I did my thing. I like to go drive around town and see what's going on. Lo and behold, I drive up Soda Creek and get there, and somebody had dumped a trailer and a track hoe. And I'm not talking about a little backhoe. I mean, an old track hoe that was probably 40 years old, you know, and so it was being used as a dump on us. Of course, we had to take care of that as well. This piece of property is not something that we could give to the landowners, and I'm going to let John Bordoni explain kind of what we use that for. But I think we really need to be thinking about either signing and enforcing no parking, or figure out a way to fence it off so nobody can get in that area. John, will you tell council what we use that for?
Mayor and council, typically that piece of land is just used for storage for what we clean out of the Little Bear diversion reservoir. And also the water line for Little Bear runs through that piece of property. So that's what it's typically mostly for.
Okay. All right. Jim, did you have a question or a comment?
I did, thank you. So I was reading through this on the agenda, and yes, you are correct that, you know, and then obviously, so this piece of city property is not only affecting a city resident for ingress and egress out of their home, which is truly is a one-way, and then just the sheer disregard of, you know, others coming up, Denver folks or whatever, parking there. And then also we got involved with the, you know, all the abandoned, you know, garbage per se in that area. It also blocks, you know, John's access to where they have that fence into the city property back there to the water. I don't know what that is. John, help me out with that. What is that access to?
That's where the actual diversion and gate valve rat that feeds the waterfall and water wheel.
So seems to me something of some importance, if needed be at the time, where there's not a 40,000 pound track hoe sitting there, to where, you know, John and his crew couldn't do what they needed to do there. So ultimately, I honestly believe that, you know, this is it's a pretty legitimate concern, not only from the homeowner that lives, you know, their driveway does pass through the city property there, but also the fact that, you know, there's a direct effect to many people on this, you know, for what it's being used for. Maybe we could do some barriers or something through there and keep people, or I don't know, temporary fence or something that John could access it. I do feel that this is a legitimate concern for everybody, even though it's kind of out of town and kind of out of sight. But, you know, let's face it. I mean, if someone had human feces in your driveway, obviously none of us would be appreciative of that. And also, like I said, this particular property is affecting others rather than just one person.
All right, thank you, Councilman Clark. Any other comments? Chief, you could weigh in if you'd like, or other council members. Because
there we go.
Chief,
is this a city piece of property that's outside town limits? Is that what we're saying?
Yes, it's a piece of property that's outside the town limits, but unlike the Blackstone River Ranch, the water treatment plant, and now the cabins, it's not annexed into the city for purposes of law enforcement. So our governance of that property is that essentially of a private property owner. So we still have the right to ticket. We still have the right to impound and tag vehicles. If somebody were camping on, on the property, we'd still have the right as a private property owner, but any major crime that occurred there would be diverted to the county because we don't have, it's not within our jurisdictional boundaries. So we maintain rights as a property owner. My recommendation is we do one of two things. We develop it as a developed parking area with a garbage can. The problem with that is we can expect everybody coming down the hill to use it as their private receptacle, or we pull it back to the road some way. We were talking about obtaining large river rocks, and maybe, there's got to be a reasonable curbside there, so we don't have people crashing into them, or the plow trucks hitting rocks or other barriers. But I think if we decide that we don't want people parking there, we do have to sort of reinvent that space so it doesn't look like it's a parking space.
Council?
I think that's a reasonable deal right there. Try to, and maybe some aggressive signage too. Cordon it off and violators will be towed, no parking.
I'm wondering if we did fence it, John, how expensive and how long would the fence be? Do you have any rough idea?
I would have to measure it. Unfortunately, trying to get contractors up here to do any type of fence is next to impossible. So I would say we currently have a pile of dirt there. We will make a berm all the way around the widest part of the property and put up no parking signs.
Yeah, I don't think that's a great site for a fence. I mean, essentially, if we bring the forest back to the road somehow with the berms and rocks and other obstructions, maybe a little landscaping, not for the purpose of like park landscaping, but scape it so maybe something else will grow there. Maybe down the road, plant some trees that are similar to the trees that are there. I'm not sure I really like the idea of a fence because, the thing is it draws more attention. Now you've got this huge fence and people are wondering what's behind it.
There's already one there though.
What's that?
There's already one there.
It's very small. It's a very small closure there.
True.
I think if we put a fence there, we're just making a bigger target for somebody to drive into it, or damage as a result of the pressure of snow being plowed into it. So I mean, my personal feeling is that John's on the right track, that we try this first, is essentially make a land barrier.
Yep, I like that. It's cheap. Couple of signs up.
Yep.
And we'll just cheap if you just have somebody, once a day drive up there, see what's going on the weekends. I don't know how much is going to be happening over the next several months with the cold and the snow and stuff. But I think if that berm's around it, what we don't want is them to park outside the berm and cause a bigger problem for the resident there.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, does the private driveway go through the center of the property, or within the boundaries, or along one edge?
One edge.
Yeah.
Just one edge.
Okay, so we won't need to have a right of way through the middle of it.
Well, actually, it's not a huge thing, but from the intersection of Little Bear and Soda Creek, there's a short distance they drive in our right of way. Well, John, that's flat out our property. That's not right of way, correct? That's city property. So they do drive across our property. I think historically, they always have. So I don't think there's a problem there. One thing I don't want to do though is I don't want to engineer it to the point to where now it's their private parking space. So when we design it, we have to ensure that there's access from no sides.
Okay.
Right.
That's an easy fix. John? You got that? And 3 more barriers. Okay, thanks, John. Okay, the last item, and then I'll give a little update, but employee bonuses. Every year since I've been here, I think that first year maybe we gave every employee $75, and then we bumped up. No, actually, I think when I got here it was 50, and we bumped it up to 100. It totals up to about $2,700. Is that correct, Andy? You know, we were really concerned about where we were going to be as a city and where we were going to be on with our employees being employed and furloughing or laying off employees. I'll knock on wood. I think we've been very blessed that we have not had to do that. We're really hanging in here. And I think that in one of our meetings that we do on Monday mornings, we were talking about doing away with that $2,700 and not giving that to our employees. With the way that things are going, our employees need this money. And we're just coming back to council and asking if everybody would support to go ahead. Let's give our employees that $100 bonus that we already budgeted for this year and give them a little something. You know, everybody's going to be struggling this Christmas. And I think that $100 to each of our employees and their families is really gonna, it'll buy their meal for the day, right? So I'm just gonna throw that out there. Does council support? Go ahead and let's go ahead and give our employees their bonus this year and next year.
I just think it's something that we should give them. I think it's motivational. I think it's, you know, we're giving money around to other things. I think we should take care of our employees, and I think that would show them how that we do care and we recognize the job they do. And I think that's very important.
Well put, Art.
Well,
Yeah, I agree.
Totally agree.
Absolutely.
And we don't have to make any formal action. It was already approved on a budget, so we're all good. We can put a thumbs up if you agree.
I agree.
Everybody
Can't see,
good.
I know you all paid Jonathan off, so you can't see my picture. Actually, I donated money as well, but my thumb is up.
Okay. All right. I just want to give a real quick update. If anybody went downtown today, you saw a lot of things happening. One, we got our barricades back up, blocking Minor Street off. Today was our first day, and there might be a little bit more to do. And we've got to give a big shout out to John's crews, parks and streets. They were out there all day long, literally started at 5:30 this morning and was out there past dark. They were still out there putting those Jersey barriers that we have been talking about over the last week or so, week and a half. They're all set that we could get. We're going to try to get a few more for one of the businesses. It went really well. I think it is a good track to allowing those businesses on that north side of Minor Street to activate the street. And some of the business owners that were out there today were very excited and, you know, very thankful to the council for making this happen and allowing this to happen, and the recovery task force to also be the ones to dive in and really go out on site, see how they would lay out and make sure that this was a good thing for our downtown businesses. So, like I said, they were all set that we could get. If we could get 3 more, I think we would be good to go. We've already got businesses talking about how they're going to decorate them with Christmas lights and stuff. I really think this is going to turn into a pretty cool thing. I'm going to try to find out if Cdot will allow us to maybe 1 or 2 per block. If we can find somebody that does murals, maybe come down and do some murals on them and make them look real cool. So we've got some ideas, and I really believe that the downtown businesses are excited, and they're going to participate in getting everything looking cool and very festive for Christmas. Any questions on that?
Just to comment, if we can beautify Jersey barriers, this will be a national story.
That's right. And I still, I'm going to suggest on the inside, you know how we were allowing kids to use chalk out on the street downtown this summer?
Yeah.
Now they can't do that now. We're going to have traffic one way. That's another thing that we've got to do tomorrow is turn everything so we're pointing one way. But I can see businesses giving chalk to kids so they can draw on the inside of them while they're sitting there waiting for food. So I think it could be a lot of fun for the kids, and I really believe the business is going to participate in trying to make it as decorative and festive as possible.
I'm wondering, Mike, if the barriers are in pretty good shape in terms of what we got from Cdot.
You know, I've seen worse. I'll say that. John, what do you think?
They're not in too bad a shape, actually. I mean, they're not real torn up. There's a few cracks in them and that, but they're not bad. It is open for traffic eastbound now. We opened it before we left, so we'll see how many cars are in there in the morning.
All right.
Great, thank you.
Okay, anything else, council? All right, good work session. Thanks, everybody, and we will see you.
Hey, Mayor.
Oh,
Mayor.
go ahead.
So you might want to just mention about what's happening tomorrow. We have a big event happening tomorrow.
So yes, if you haven't seen it on Facebook, tomorrow is the day they're going to be coming in and getting our coach and loading it up on a flatbed and hauling it up to a Silver Plume.
Nice.
So if you know somebody, I would really love, I'm hoping that the Current will be out here. And John, why don't you call Frozen Fire and see if they would do something on that?
I talked to Brandy. I need to talk to her again. I will follow up with her tonight.
All right, thank you.
John, are they going to be there in the morning, I assume?
Yeah, around 8 o'clock, I believe. And then, I don't know the last time that train went up to Silver Plume, if it did, Bob, if you know. But it's got to have been at least 100 years by this point, I think.
Oh, yeah, easily. That's for sure.
I think Bob was a little younger.
Yeah, I was probably here, though. So, no, there are a number of people in Denver who have asked me through some of the railroad clubs when this was going to occur. So I've got to get on the phone right away here after the meeting. I'm really glad you brought that up, Andy.
We really want to get documentation of this. This is a historic event for Idaho Springs, and we really want to document this for the future of our community. So, all right, I think that's it. Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of your night, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Good night, guys.